for this presentation has time to listen and we can get everything in the hour we have together, I'm going to start. Good morning. My name, or I guess afternoon now. My name's Kara Kumari. I'm Assistant Commissioner for Communications and External Affairs for the Department of Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. Welcome so much to this presentation and Lunch and Learn about the TEIS extended option. Couple of housekeeping things I want to go through with you before I turn it over to our Assistant Commissioner for TEIS, Kelly Hyde, to say a few words. First of all, we are using a Teams format, which means that we need your help in keeping yourselves muted so that we can get through the presentation and make sure that everyone has an opportunity to listen and learn. So please, you are responsible for muting yourself during this presentation. We do have a backup, but sometimes that can be very disruptive as well. An interpreter should be spotlighted in Teams in case anyone needs that translation. We do have an interpreter here providing ASL as well, so that folks have an opportunity to listen and learn if they need to using ASL. Another couple of things. First of all, when we do presentations, what we found is the most successful presentation is one where we go through the entire presentation and then we have folks drop their questions in the chat box. So we encourage everyone to ask questions using our chat box and to be able to ask those questions. You can drop a question in the chat box at any period of time, but we will wait until we get through the entire presentation so that we can, and we'll take them all at the end. One thing I've found is that many times some of the questions that people ask are sometime later in the presentation. So we want to make sure that people can listen, and then we'll get to all of those questions. One final thing, this presentation in Lunch and Learn is intended for families. We have a lot of other folks and stakeholders on here, and we're happy you're here. However, when it comes to the question time, we would ask that we prioritize family questions since this is their opportunity, and we want to be able to create a space for them to ask the questions that they have. We do value all of those provider questions as well and those other questions from other stakeholders. And I'll just remind everyone, we do have our office hours, both commissioner's office hours and TEIS office hours for folks to ask these kinds of questions. We do want to make sure that families have an opportunity to ask the questions they've got in the time we have allotted for this presentation. So with that, I'm going to turn it over and introduce our Assistant Commissioner for TEIS, Kelly Hyde. She took the helm about a year ago and has been doing a wonderful job. And welcome, Kelly, and we're glad you're joining us today.
Thank you, Kara. I appreciate that. And good afternoon, everybody. We're really excited to be with you today to discuss the long anticipated TEIS extended option. We know many of you have been interested in learning a little bit more about what the TEIS program is going to offer and what it will mean for your family. So today, Kara is going to share an overview during the presentation, and then, like she said before, we'll take your questions towards the end. I also hope that you've had a chance to look on our website at some of the information that we have shared. We've been updating that regularly, as well as providing information in our TriStarts newsletter that goes out monthly. We are definitely committed to providing support to you and your family as we transition into this new program, and definitely looking forward to all of the options that we have to offer. So with that, Kara, I will turn it back to you.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Kelly. And I am going to get my screen transitioned so I can flip the slides. You all should be seeing the big presentation, the big slideshow up, big words saying TEIS extended option. So we're going to get started. So first of all, this first slide goes over the presenters. You've already met me, you've already met Kelly, so I'm going to move this one over to some of the other folks in leadership that we have on here. We have many people from our TEIS staff who are on here, and our leadership team includes Amanda Schaefer, the TEIS Director of Data and Operations, Jill Rigsby, TEIS Director of Early Childhood Services and Part C Coordinator, and Joan Kennedy, TEIS Director of Program Implementation. So what do these titles mean? One thing I always like to stress is these are the folks that are making the decisions about TEIS, along with Commissioner and the DIDD executive team. And those decisions include everything from outreach to doctors and hospitals, to making decisions about the TEIS extended option, how it'll be implemented, how to make sure that we're partnering with our providers, and how we're making sure our service coordinators are partnering with our families as well. So they're here to explain the TEIS option, extended option with me, and then answer your questions. We're very excited to have them on. So a little short overview of what we'll be going through today. First of all, we're going to do a quick review. There are many people who probably know what TEIS services look like right now, but it's important to kind of talk about where we are before we start to talk about what's changing. So then we'll talk a little bit about the TEIS extended option and what that means. We'll talk about what your family's choices are when it comes to early intervention when your child turns 3. We'll talk a little bit about eligibility, what makes a child eligible to continue services, either through the extended option or special education services. You're going to hear a lot of acronyms thrown around, including 2 big ones, IFSP and IEP. We're going to talk about what those are and really what's the difference between the two. And then finally, we'll talk about transition support and how we and our partners in the school district pledge and want to help you transition and make successful choices for your child and for your family. So like I said, in order to talk about where we're going, we first want to talk about where we are right now. So when we're talking about the Tennessee Early Intervention System right now, we're talking about a system that supports thousands of children from birth up until the age of 3. Once that child turns 3 currently, he or she may transition to what we call special education services in that local school district. So those special education services in the area where they live. My child attends school in Williamson County, so those services would be through Williamson County if she were eligible for those services. Families also can choose to access other resources in their community upon transition. So the very basics of what the TEIS extended option is, and we'll go into some more detail, of course, since this is what this presentation is about. The TEIS extended option is going to allow current families to continue to receive TEIS services beyond the age of 3 if the child is eligible for those special education services in their local school district. You're going to hear this called a couple of different things. Sometimes it can be called IDEA Part B eligibility, or Part B eligibility for short. But we are going to try to call it through this presentation eligible for special education services so that folks can really understand and get an idea of what we're talking about. Why we wanted to do this extension, I like to talk about the extended option in those 2 words, extended and option. And this extension gives families that additional option, that additional choice to consider when they're deciding how to best help their child develop and prepare for school. We're very fortunate that Governor Lee and the Tennessee General Assembly really saw the value in early intervention. And I know so many families see the value in their children that early intervention can provide. So that we wanted to make sure that we're giving families all of the options to help their child thrive and succeed. So first, in order to be eligible for the extended option, your child must have a current individualized family service plan through TEIS. So that IFSP, that's what guides services in and supports in TEIS. So your child must be enrolled in TEIS and have an IFSP to be eligible for the extended option. Also, that child must be determined eligible for school district special education services by their local education agency, or LEA, so that local school system. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the future. Also, that child must turn 3 on or after October 15th, 2022. That October 15th, 2022 date is an important date because that is the start date for our TEIS extended option. So those are some of the basics about what a child must have to be eligible for that extended option. For school district special education services, your child must be determined eligible for those school district special education services by the local school district. So whether you're taking the TEIS extended option or that school district special education service option, your child must be determined eligible for those special education services to proceed with either of these 2 choices. So if that child is found eligible for school district special education services, that's where they have one of the choices to either continue those TEIS services through the IFSP or to go ahead and transition to the local school district and continue and receive special education services through an individualized education program, very commonly and most likely known as an IEP. So what are your family's choices? We'll talk a little bit more about transition support, but it's important that I tell you up front that we're not going to leave you alone in this decision. We are going to help and assist with anything that we might be able to help provide you with information and resources to help you make this decision. So before your child turns 3, we're going to plan for transition. Your service coordinator is going to continue to support you through this process. And if your child is not eligible for school district special education services, that service coordinator will provide you with resources within your community and additional options. So if your child is found eligible for school district special education services, you're going to have 3 options. That first is the TEIS extended option. The second, like we said, is that special education services in the local school district. And there's also a third option. If you feel like your child has really benefited all they can from early intervention, you can choose to end all services. So you do have an option to end all services if you feel like your child has made all of the gains and that they're prepared to go it and go to the school system without an IEP. So if your child is eligible, we're going to talk about those 2 big options first, TEIS extended option and that IEP option as well. So we'll start with the extended option. If your child is eligible for school district special education services, your family can continue with TEIS services up to the start of the school year following your child's 4th birthday. So for instance, if my child were to turn 4 in March, my child would be able to continue on with those services until the start of the school year after that, which for where we live in our district is in early August. Those services would continue to be provided through an individualized family service plan. So you'll continue on with that IFSP that you are that's the way you're receiving those TEIS services. All of the services your child receives today would continue. So a lot of those services are going to be continued. We'll also make sure that there is a goal that addresses literacy and numeracy. So those literacy goals would we're not talking about reading textbooks or something like that. We're talking more like things like talking and singing, reading, drawing, storytelling. So those kinds of skills that help your child develop your child's literacy, and things like nursery rhymes, I Spy, books with rhymes. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about literacy. We're not expecting goals about long edition or reading Harry Potter. The other thing I would say is families can also choose to transition to the school district at any time during the TEIS extended option. And that's an important thing to mention is if you choose the extended option, we're not saying you have to continue those services until the start of the school year following the child's 4th birthday. If you feel like at any point in time your child has learned everything they need to learn, and that you're ready to go to the school district and start to make those connections within your child's school, you have the ability to do so. So at any point in time during the TEIS extended option, you can choose to go to the school system. For school district special education services, if your child is eligible, once again, for those special education services, you can choose to transition your child to special education services within your local school district at age 3. And those are the services that are provided through the individualized education program that are known as an IEP. One difference when we're talking about that transition, when you decide to transition to the school system, you cannot come back to TEIS. So once you transition to that school system, that your child is in that school system and will continue to receive those services through an IEP. This flow chart kind of shows a child's journey through the entire early intervention system in Tennessee. So from that TEIS referral that may come in anytime from 0 up until the age of 3, all the way to the choices that the family has for the extended option. So this is in this presentation now. We will be making a PDF of this document and making this available separately to help families better understand the process. We understand that a flow chart sometimes can be a little hard to look at in a presentation, but it also is a good roadmap for what early intervention looks like in Tennessee. So we throw around those words IFSP and IEP all the time. So what is the difference? What are the things that families need to know about both, and how they provide services? Because they really are so important when it comes to providing those services and outlining those services and supports each family is going to have and their child is going to have during early intervention. An IFSP is an individualized family service plan. And a written plan that is a written plan for providing early intervention supports and services to an eligible child and their family. And one thing that's important to know about an IFSP is that those services and supports are focused on your child and family within those day-to-day activities, those daily routines, really helping your child acclimate to their environment in their home, in those natural surroundings that they live in every single day. And then an IEP is an individualized education program. This is a written plan for providing special education and related services to students with a disability. These are the services that are provided within a school system. Those IEP services focus primarily on your child's access and participation in educational activities in the least restrictive environment. Something we always aim to do is make sure your child has full access and inclusion when it comes to all of their daily activities, including their experience in schools. Now, as I mentioned early on in the program, we're not going to leave folks alone in this process. We understand there's a lot to decide, and we understand there are big choices. So we're going to talk a little bit about transition support, and I'll go into several of these in a little bit more depth. But in order to make an informed decision about what's best for your child, you're going to have some access to, first of all, a transition team. You're going to have transition planning conferences. These are some of the things that are already occurring every single day within TEIS. We'll also have a family notification document, something that helps a family really understand the differences between an IEP and an IFSP so that they can make the best decision. That transition team is there because they want to answer your child's questions. We want to help and support you decide what is best for your child so that you feel like you have the best you can make the best decision. We'll answer questions, we'll offer resources, and make sure that you feel like you have the information you need to decide to make that decision for your child. Talked about transition planning conferences. I mentioned that these are happening every single day within TEIS. Those transition planning conferences and that transition support that's happening every day, and it's going to really occur as it does now for all children. That process usually starts around 3 to 9 months before your child's 3rd birthday. So we get started on it fairly early so that you're not staring that 3rd birthday deadline and feel like you don't have any idea of what your options are. Your service coordinator is going to guide you through this process. So they are there to help support you through this process. Your local school district will also be invited to attend. So we will be inviting your local school district and representatives from there to attend as well. And it's important to note that families can also choose other people they want to attend. So they don't have to do this alone. If they have other people in their life that they like to have help support their decision making, please, we invite them to come. We want folks to feel surrounded and supported as they make decisions for their child and their family. When it comes to where can you find information, this is a very general presentation. And as we get closer to that October 15th date, we'll be providing more information. But it's also good to know that we have a TEIS extended option webpage where you can find the latest updates about the TEIS extended option. And some of those things include frequently asked questions that we do update so that the frequently asked questions, if we find more questions are coming in, we'll update it. So that list may grow as we get closer and closer to that extended option start date. Also, an extended option one pager. If you just need one page to take a look and see what this looks like, we have that for you available on the website. We'll have that family notification document so that you can really look through and read it and study it and make sure that you understand what the options are and what might be best. And then we continue to provide updates in our newsletter. You'll find that webpage here, and it's important to note we are recording this presentation, and we'll make this and the presentation, this recording and that presentation available as well to you. And with that, I am going to open it up to questions if you all have any. I'm looking at the chat box right now to see whether or not I've got questions coming in, and I'm going to stop with the presentation. So okay. I see a long question. Can I get clarity on something? In the example you gave of how long a child can continue in TEIS, you said if the child turned 3 in March, they could continue through the start of the school year in August, if they are eligible. Do you mean during the same year or the year they are eligible to start kindergarten? For instance, turn 4 in March of 2023. They can only continue through August of 2023, not until August of 2024 when they are eligible for kindergarten. I'm going to turn this over to one of the members on my team. Kelly, if you would like to take this, or if Jill would like to take this, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, yes, I can take this question. So to answer that, a child must to be eligible for the extended option will need to turn 3 on or after October 15th of 2022. So if they turn 3 in March of 2023, that child will be eligible for the TEIS extended option all the way past their 4th birthday in 2024 up to the start of the school year. So in August or whichever district you're in, you know, whatever their start date is, I think it's typically just around a week or so difference between districts. So yes, they will have an extended time.
Great, thank you very much, Kelly. By when do we need to make this decision? So when do you need to make the decision as to whether to go to TEIS or stay with TEIS or go to the special education school district? Kelly, would you like to take this one?
Yes, and I will toss this one over to Amanda Schaefer, our Director of Operations. She can provide a clearer answer for that one.
The answer to this isn't actually as clear yet because we will be working with DOE and the LEAs to determine whether or not we need to specify an appropriate time frame. So part of this answer will come at a later date. But if your eligibility for Part B is determined ahead of your 3rd birthday, it's likely that that 3rd birthday will be the time frame for you. So there will be, of course, other cases where the timeline's not as clear and those details are still to be sorted and will be communicated at a later date.
Thanks so much, Amanda. Now I do see some hands that are being raised. I would ask if you can to please drop those questions in the chat box because right now I'm not able to see whose hands are being raised, just that hands are being raised because we're getting so many questions in the chat box. So if you can please drop those questions in chat, that way we can answer it. The next one I'm going to go to Jill for. Will all early intervention services be extended, including center-based early intervention? Are meetings planned for EIRAs and vendors to discuss the specifics? And just a real reminder as I read this question, we are trying to make sure that families have an opportunity to ask their questions. So I am going to let this one go over to Jill, but let's prioritize family questions, please, and any questions for EIR from our provider community. We'd ask that you that you are able to ask them again in office hours or something, so we have time to get to all of the family questions that are being asked. So Jill, I'll go to you.
Thank you, Kara. Yes, all early intervention services that we currently have contracts for, they will be extending. We did send out some information to our current contractors to see what their interest was in extending. And so we will be extending all of those services.
Great, thank you very much. Next one, I'm going to go to Kelly for. My son will be 2 in August 2022. If I continue with TEIS services and decide in December 2023 that we want to move into the Part B services, can the school systems make us wait until the following school year since the year has already started? Kelly.
So if you do choose to participate in the TEIS extended option after your child turns 3 and determine that you would like to transition to the school system anytime after that, we will remain involved and facilitate a transition planning meeting in order to have your child transition over to the local school system. So they will also become involved. So it will be a process, but you will be able to move between the programs. Just a reminder, as Kara mentioned in the presentation, once you do exit the TEIS services, you're not able to return to those. So if you do choose that in between the time of the 4th birthday or even the start of the school year after the 4th birthday, they will remain with the local school system at that point.
Okay, great. Could you provide me some insight on how this will intersect with the TISA, which is the Tennessee Investment in Student Achievement, which is funding for Part B? So that is, we do actually, we have a contact for the Department of Education. She and he is going to, we're going to drop his email address, Gary Smith, into chat, and we will and we'll take that back to him to make sure that we can get that question from the Department of Education. Yes, Carly did just provide that information. So those questions for Part B can be directed to gary.x.smith@tn.gov. Okay, the next question. What was the determining factor to decide qualifications? Such as the school system IEP, the student does not make the educational requirements, but still has many non-educational needs. I'm going to take this one over to Amanda.
That's a good question. This is set by federal regulations from the Office of Special Education Programs. So in the regulations that allow us to offer the extended program, it is specified that Part B eligibility be the criteria for families to be able to choose it. So that is not a choice TEIS made. Those are the terms of the federal regulations.
Okay, great. Thank you very, Amanda. So the next question, and it looks like there are 2 questions that are the same thing. So there will be a possibility of a gap when they turn 4 and when they are eligible for kindergarten. Jill Rigsby will answer this question. Jill.
Yes, children we're looking at services for children up to the start of the school year. That will leave a gap. We are not serving children that are 5. We're serving children up to 4 and after the school year. So there will be a gap, but the children are already eligible for school system services. So we anticipate that transition into those services at that time.
Yes, and that's a good reminder that that child has already been determined eligible for Part B services. So that child can transition at that time into those Part B special education services. Is the October 15th, 2022 birthday cutoff finalized? And if so, what avenues are available for parents to file an appeal or grievance about this if they would have otherwise qualified for an extended option apart from having an earlier birth date? Kelly, I will take that to you.
Okay, thanks, Kara. Yes, so the October 15th timeframe has been finalized, and so that on or after a child will have to turn 3 on or after that October 15th timeframe in order to be eligible for the TEIS extended option. If at this point the different avenues that will be available will be discussed with your service coordinator, I would recommend proceeding on as you typically would with transition planning, looking at Part B and what is eligible on that side for your child if you are interested in continuing services.
That's right. And to follow up with Kelly, yes, that is October 15th. The child must turn 3 on or after October 15th to be eligible for the extended option. And families who turn 3 before that date should be continuing with their current transition planning. My son will be 3 in November 2022. If I choose the TEIS extended base option, does my child keep their clinic-based therapists and schedules? I'm going to turn that one over to Jill Rigsby again.
Yes, the intention is that all services will continue. Now we are working with our vendors to ensure that they have the capability and capacity to continue to serve over the age of 3. So there is a possibility that therapists and schedules may change, but this is something that will be discussed as part of your IFSP transition team meeting and having those discussions and finalizing that before the child turns 3.
Excellent. Okay, if you are planning on applying for the Katie Beckett program, will choosing the extended program affect your eligibility into Katie Beckett and how? No, it will not impact your eligibility for the Katie Beckett program. We do have more than 100, close to probably, I want to say several hundred students who do receive, or children who do receive both TEIS and Katie Beckett at the same time. And we work very closely because both programs are operated by DIDD to make sure those services are coordinated. Everyone is educated about those services and make sure those services are working together to support your child. So this will not impact, this should not impact Katie Beckett eligibility. And as the person who does a lot of the communication for Katie Beckett and the presentations on Katie Beckett, I would encourage anyone who is interested in the Katie Beckett program to learn more about the program and apply through the TenCare Connect portal. Our website does also have some other options if you need support in applying for that program. We do have spaces in Katie Beckett and would love to support children who could and families who could benefit from that service as well. Okay. I am looking for other questions. I see that Gary Smith did mention that it's not anticipated that TISA will result in a notable impact on preschool age children served by districts. Apparently there are more questions in the chat box and I don't know if I'm not seeing them or if I'm missing them.
And Kara, I can jump to one question I think
Sure.
that we have kind of touched on already. The question about on the eligibility. So if your child just turned 3, then they will not be eligible because their birthday was before October. That is correct. So the TEIS extended option is not available until October 15th.
Thank you very much, Kelly. I appreciate that. I'm looking through to see if we have any more questions in chat. I'll pause for about 10 seconds to see whether, and we do. Okay, I'm reading this. I'm reading this out loud without having looked at it. So I have a parent who is trying to access the chat box but is unable to from her phone. The question is: the handout stated families of children who are eligible for IDEA Part B services will have the choice to continue with TEIS services until the start of the school year following the child's 4th birthday. Why would eligibility under Part B be required when services would be through an agency that follows Part C? I am going to turn that one over to Kelly. Do you have an answer for that one?
Yes, I can answer that. So the federal regulations do require that Part B eligibility be determined in order to continue with the TEIS extended option. So that is where we received our guidance from. So once the child is determined Part B eligible, they can continue with Part C or transition to Part B.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Kelly. I'll pause just maybe 10 more seconds to see whether or not we have any other questions. Following up on my earlier question, what if we take no services? sorry, things are popping up, and so I just want to, it's blocking my view, but that's not a problem. I'll just work around it. Following up on my earlier question, what if we take no services in the meantime between the 3rd birthday and October 15th? So I think the question here is, what if they decide to, when their child turns 3, to take no services? Can they wait until the extended option starts on October 15th?
And I'm sorry, yeah, I can answer that. If that is the meaning of the question, if your child is going to turn 3 prior to that October 15th timeframe, they will not be eligible for the extended option. And so we will proceed with normal transition planning to the school system. And if you're asking, and I'm going to go just a different way, if you're asking, what if we take no services in the meantime between the 3rd birthday and October 15th? If you are eligible, if your child is eligible for the TEIS extended option and they turn 3 after that time frame, you will have a transition planning conference and support from the service coordinator to walk you through that and present you the 3 options, which are either the TEIS extended option, the Part B, or no services at all. But a decision will have to be made in order to continue. So there will not be time for an extended gap of no services at all and then staying with TEIS.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Okay, if there's time to answer, if a child has an August birth date, is there a specific cutoff date to begin preschool services? I know kindergartners have 8/15 as the date. I'm going to give this one to Jill Rigsby. Jill.
Yes, the state of Tennessee does not have a standard or, mandatory school start date for every county or LEA in the state. So that's going to be LEA specific as to when that service would stop and the child would enter the school system services in August.
All right, thank you. Okay, can you please put back the slide on about the October 15th eligibility? It will take me just a second to do that. So let me go to the next question, and I'll work to get that slide back up. From the same parent, the school's Part B evaluation curriculum is based on an educational-based assessment that focuses on educational goals and standards. Again, assuming I select to continue an IFSP, not an IEP, I do not feel the school's assessment will adequately assess him based on the home placement versus the school placement. The IFSP focuses on the functional goals, whereas the IEP would be more educationally focused. What if a child at age 3 would qualify through Part C, but not through Part B? I'm going to turn this one over to Jill.
So this, in essence, goes back to what Dr. Schaefer talked about with the federal regulations are very specific about how an extended option is developed. And one of those criteria is that a child be eligible for Part B or the local school system. So that is not something that we can take out of our eligibility. It is very much designated by the regulations, and we follow that.
Dr. Schaefer, do you have anything to add?
I'll just add that if you think of this, another way to think about this is that eligibility is not, criteria is not really changing by age. So the same way we were determining eligibility for age 3 on is how we're determining eligibility for age 3 on now. What we're adding is just an additional choice to choose early intervention instead of Part B through an IEP at this point in time. So we're adding an option. We're not actually changing eligibility. So think of it that way. The way you are determined eligible for TEIS up to age 3 remains, and how eligibility is determined for special education services beyond age 3 remains consistent. But we're adding in an option just to extend your early intervention service delivery model if that is your preference.
Thanks a lot, Amanda. And I did pull up that slide that I think that you were all were looking at, that the person was looking at, the TEIS extended option, that they must have that current IFSP, be determined eligible for school district special education services by their local education agency, turn 3 on or after October 15th, 2022, the start date. Or the school district special education services, your child must be determined eligible for those school district special education services. So that is the thing that is the same on both the extended option and also the school district special education services. So hope that helps. Okay, I did have to disable that so that I can read the questions again. Sorry to belabor the point, but it seems like other parents are also interested in this topic. Can you provide some insight into why parents with kids turning 3 between now and October 15th could not choose to pause and wait to choose the extended option in October? We have discussed an IEP with the district already, and they will provide fewer services than my son receives in TEIS. If I decline the IEP, then why can we not choose an IFSP in October? Thank you for the clarifications. In the end, it is because the implementation is not until 10/15. At 3, currently a child is 8 ages out of TEIS, and so that is the date that that services start, and that services start, and we did have to decide that that children are eligible on or after that date. Next question. From that parent, I was also told that certain devices, SMOs, AFOs are limited. I was told TEIS will only pay for 3 sets per 3 years. Will this change with the extended year? I'm going to give this one over to Jill to answer.
Yes, with the extension, we are making changes in our vendor contracts, which includes the provision of assistive technology, which is what the SMOs and the AFOs fall into. So with the extension, we are increasing the quantity of items within that vendor contract for assistive tech.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jill. My child turns 3 on October 17th, so just in time for the extension. Does that mean she is eligible to stay in TEIS until August of 2024 because of her October birthday and the school year starts in August? The answer to Kristen, the answer to your question is yes, if the child is found to be Part B eligible, because so eligible for those special education services. So that is correct. Your understanding. Another question from that parent, from the parent through Lindy, would educational goals be implemented instead of functional goals in the IFSP for the extended year? I believe that one is also going to Jill.
Yes, as part of the regulations requirement, we are required to address a numeracy and literacy within the goals of the IFSP. We are still going to have functional goals. It is an extension of the services that TEIS provides. So we're still going to focus on functional goals and family routines, but we will be addressing literacy and numeracy. And I think Kara did a really good job at the front of the presentation when she was talking about those numeracy and literacy goals and what that could mean. So it's not just about, being able to read or identify letters or numbers. There's a lot of things that we do within the early childhood field that addresses numeracy and literacy. That's not a specific item or what you think about as being very educationally based. So we are going to weave that into the services that we provide within that functional goal routine-based model.
Thank you very much, Jill. Okay, the next question. Would we need to get a local school evaluation for special ed pre-K, even if we choose to continue with the TEIS extended option? Kelly, I'm going to give this one to you.
Okay, thank you, Kara. And yes, so the Part B eligibility will have to be determined to be eligible for the Part C extended option. as well as transitioning over to the school system after the child turns 3. So the answer to that is yes, the eligibility will have to be determined.
Thanks a lot, Kelly. Okay, the next question. So Part B eligibility will be required for TEIS to pay for SMOs. Jill?
Within the extended option, in order to be eligible for that extended option, you will have to be eligible for Part B services and then choose the extended option. Because we have the extended option, then there is a need to increase our contracts to cover the years of that extended option. So in essence, yes, to be eligible for the extended option, you have to be eligible for the public school system. And then once you're in the extended option, our contracts have been increased out with increased items within the assistive technology piece of the vendor contract.
Thanks a lot, Jill. Okay, I do not see. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hey, this is Joan. I just wanted to remind too that everything that happens within for the extended option. If they're eligible for Part B and they go into the extended option, the IFSP process continues. And so services are determined based on the need for services based on goals that are developed. So that process will continue.
Thank you, Joan, and thank you for making sure I didn't get ahead of myself. I'm going to pause for another 10 seconds to see whether or not there are questions. We do. The question is, so do kids have the potential to be in the TEIS program until the age of 5? I'm gonna turn this one over to Amanda.
So the extended option is if eligible for the extended option and the family chooses it. If the child, it is to the start of school following the 4th birthday. So in theory, if the child turns 4 just after the start of school, maybe September in a district that starts school in August, theoretically, they would be eligible to continue in the extended option until the start of the next school year. So they would be age 4 and 11 months. So think about it in terms of where is the 4th birthday and then count the months up to the start of the next school year. And that is the end of the extended option.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Amanda. Excellent explanation. Okay. 10 more seconds for questions. Okay. After the age 3 in the extended option, well, we've got them coming in. Hold on, sorry. I get this little blue box that gives me the questions multiple times. After the age 3 in the extended option, educational skills would be added as if they were in the school system. Jill Rigsby's got this one.
The answer is very similar to previously. Within the extended option, we are still providing services through the development of functional goals in family routines. So we will still be writing those types of goals, but also addressing numeracy and literacy. So it is essentially, it's the extension of Tennessee's early intervention service. So we will not switch to a Part B type of service with an extension. It is TEIS services.
Thank you very much, Jill. Okay, if time, is there a specific place where we can see what the Part B criteria is located for special education services available at age 3 and onward? So once we have it prepared, that is exactly what the family notification document will provide, is some of the answers as to what an IFSP, what extended services will look like, and what services through an IEP will look like. So you'll be able to compare them side by side. But Gary did me a solid in chat, and he also linked to where you can find that on the Department of Education's website and see what they've got going on right now. So you don't have to wait for that family notification guideline to get the answer to your question. So thank you, Gary, for dropping that in chat. And hopefully you'll be able to find some answers for your questions. But that family notification document, when it's out, we will share widely, and it will be on our website as well. Where can we find a written transcript so we can refer to this video conference in the future? We are recording. We do record this, and we will post it online. So as far as a written transcript goes, we do generally record these and keep these in the format that they're in right now, and put them online. Let's see. Are parents going to have a timeline to make this decision in order to keep the LEA in compliance with transiting into the school system? I'm gonna have Amanda take that question.
We are currently working closely with Gary and DOE to establish timelines for the transition period. So we don't have firm details on this right now. There will be timelines, and DIDD and DOE will agree on what works best so that all of us can be in compliance and can provide the infrastructure that best supports families in making their decision and in transitioning on if they're going to Part B or staying and continuing, and if there's a requested review to update the IFSP goals, making sure all of these pieces happen in a timely manner. So we'll be working together on that piece, and more communication will be coming out in the future.
And I also want to add that this won't be your last opportunity to hear about it. We wanted to make sure, knowing that so many questions were being asked from families, that we had a presentation this summer just to give you all the information that we know right now, so that you all can make plans and start to prepare. But we will be holding a family presentation before our extended option start date, implementation date. So this won't be your last time to ask questions or hear from us about some of the details as we work towards that October 15th date. I do not see any more questions. So because of that, I am going to call this presentation to a close. I first of all want to thank everyone who participated in this discussion. I want to thank you all for attending. I know everyone is very interested in the TEIS extended option and how it might impact their child and their family. We hope that we were able to provide you with some answers. And like I said, this won't be our last time having this conversation. So for now, I'm going to call it to a close. I hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon and a wonderful week, and we look forward to chatting with you in the future. Bye.